Hello and welcome back to the Meandering Knitting Podcast, episode 3. My name's Katie. Let's crack on with what I've been getting up to in March. March has gone so fast. I can't believe it's April next week. For those who are new around these parts, again, my name is Katie. I run the Meandering Knitter here on YouTube and over on Instagram, and I share lots of bits and bobs about our life here in Tasmania, Australia, as a mum of 3 kids who loves knitting, loves sewing, loves all things homemaking and gardening and bread baking and op shopping. Oh my gosh, op shopping, so good. Today we're going through a few finished objects, we're going through some whips, and then some plans for some future knitting, sewing projects. So today we're having a look at Slalom. We're looking at Cardigan, and we're looking at a test knit that is finished that I couldn't talk about last time, but I can talk about now. And in terms of whips, we are looking at Lyon, there's a story there. Ariundle, there's a story there too. New test knits, baby Marius, socks, forgetting one. Oh, Esther, poor Esther. We'll get to Esther. Let's get straight on with what I'm wearing today, which is a finished object, finally. This is my Paul cardigan. For my Paul cardigan, I cast it on the first week of January. Very happily, quickly did the body and got onto the sleeves. I mucked around with the sleeves for a hot minute, getting the decreases how I wanted them to fit. I've done about 20 decreases and changed up the decrease rate as well, just to fit my very long arms. Everything's pretty much to pattern. This is a double knit button band and with a bit of 2x2 here at the back. This is knit in double Sunday. It's the petite knit shade card in the colour statement green. The buttons that I've used are from the little yarn store up in Queensland, and they're this like dark brown tortoiseshell glossy colour. I was weighing up whether to use these ones or a very light beechwood type look that was a little bit more of a raw matte finish, and I went with these ones. I really like them. It sat as a whip for a while with just half a button band, probably for an entire month. How long do you think it took me to finish the other half of the button band? If you answered you waited until the night before St. Patrick's Day because you wanted to wear it on St. Patrick's Day, ding ding ding, you would be correct. Nothing like a bit of intrinsic motivation to get something done, right? Intrinsic? This would be extrinsic. I get an object out of it. Yeah, I had done this side no problems, but then the side with the buttonholes on it, I wanted to go back and relook at a few different tutorials because I did a double knit button band on my April cardigan and thoroughly enjoyed that process. So I wanted to basically replicate it on this side. And I followed the method that quite a few people have done. Florence has done it Handmade by Florence. aka Nora Knits has a great video on it where she does the Italian cast on. I chose my own adventure for this button band. Who needs to read instructions when you can just make it 10 times harder for yourself, right? So I finished it off, did it with an amalgamation of techniques. Needless to say, it's done. And I think I've worn this about 3 times. Comments on double Sunday. I love double Sunday. This is my first full garment in double Sunday. I have used double Sunday for, let me say double Sunday again, oh my gosh. I've used this yarn to knit beanies before. I've done quite a few kids beanies in it, and it's always really soft and really plush and pleasant to use. And I'm a convert, I love it. I will point out the obvious that, that it is merino and it will pill. But I've come to a realization that I just don't care about pilling. I like a good patina. I like it when things look lived in and worn and loved. I love it when my boots get a patina and you can tell that they are a staple in your wardrobe. So I think it's a big compliment to whoever knit the garment to see someone walking around with lots of bubbles all over them. And that is already happening to this cardigan, and I truly could not care less. It is so comforting. Comforting is definitely the right word. The weight of this is just like a big warm hug, and I thoroughly recommend giving this yarn a go. It's just really squeezy and squidgy and beautiful. I'm really liking this color. I really like the way the ribbing holds its shape. A lot of times that I've done ribbing in other like mohair and fingering or other yarns, it always ends up blocking out and stretching out and staying stretched. I mean, I've only worn this 3 times, but the ribbing is staying nice and taut and cinched in, which is what I want. I don't want to have like, you know, big open sleeves. I do a lot with my hands. I'm always pushing a pram. I'm doing this, that, and the other with the kids or in the garden or whatever. I knit my sleeves to a certain length. I knit my cuffs to a certain circumference. I want it to stay like that. So hopefully the elasticity of this remains. I'll report back. I will be knitting another Paul cardigan in my future, probably not this season, maybe in spring. I'm thinking in like a really bright electric blue would be so stunning. The shoulder construction of this is very similar to the Lake series by Ozetta, but it has a slightly different back construction, which I also altered. I did a Kitchener stitch instead of a 3 needle binder for the section in the middle. It has some short rows up in here, which gives it a really lovely flattering fit. Yeah, Marius Knit really hit the ball out of the park on this one. Lots of thoughtful details. As I continue on in my knitting journey, I really appreciate the little details and things which just give its own little something something. There's Paul cardigan. So that's one for me under the belt for this year. I've got my husband's slalom, which is finished. Here it is. Yes, I have stolen this 2 times to wear this. It is incredibly warm. Not as itchy as I thought it was going to be, not as kind of prickly. It just feels like wool, funnily enough. I have knit 2 Mariuses before, one being a baby version. And the main differences I noticed between the 2 are there's extended colour work. The motif seems to travel down a little bit further. It's just lengthwise, you get more in the yoke of colour work. All steeked. We've got neckline, 2 sleeves, and it was bottom up, so hem was done ages ago. If you've been playing along at home, you will know that this is a tad long. I haven't adjusted the length yet. That's this month's problem. Future Katie will be very happy to sit down and do some Kitchener stitching of some ribbing back on in 3 places. So the length of this is about a hem and a half worth too long. Not as bad as I thought, but the sleeves are about a cuff and a half too long as well. I did play around in my head about should I just cut it, rip it back, and then re-knit the ribbing, but I actually think it's going to be quicker to cut like 2 rows above the ribbing, put that back on needles, rip back, put back on needles where I want the ribbing to now sit, and Kitchener stitch. It will, in terms of time, it will probably take 2 to 3 rounds of knitting as opposed to 15 to 20 rounds of knitting 1 by 1 rib. So I think that's going to be time well spent. I just have to get to it and sit down and focus my time on that. Really happy with how the neckline is fitting. That's one of the great things about steeking, is you can cut it to exactly where you want it. I knew when I was coming into this project that I did want to knit it bottom up because I like the way that the V's sit. I think they look like little love hearts. And especially when I'm knitting for my family, it's just a bit cute, isn't it, to put love hearts all over your work. For the other jumper that I have knit bottom up and steeked, I very happily cut out a neckline that was suited to my tastes. I knew that I was using Peer Gynt. I knew that people often commented on the rusticness and the prickliness of this yarn. I haven't found that yet because we've been wearing it in, I would say, seasonally appropriate for Peer Gynt weather, just in the mornings when it's a little bit crisp. But steeking that neckline has allowed me to keep the ribbing and the Peer Gynt away from our necks. I say our because this is my husband's sweater, but I think it works. I'll show you the Kitchener stitch on the sleeves. I've done it in a little bit of a non-traditional way. If you want to look at exactly how I did this sweater, you can have a look at my steeking video that I put out where I showed you the whole process of doing the neckline and the armholes. It's so tricky to show you in navy, but oh, hopefully you can see that. So I don't think it's very obvious where I've Kitchenered. I can't see that there's, you know, like a whole line around the sleeve. So what I ended up doing was picking up stitches along my steeked edge of the body, knitting around, making sure that I decreased if necessary to get the same stitch count for my sleeve, and I kept my sleeve on live stitches and I just Kitchen it together. I have done one side, this side, with a bias binding, which I'm going to do on the other side too. I've asked my husband if he likes the way that it feels, and he says he prefers this side because it's got a little bit more structure. So what I've done, don't focus on me, focus on the pretty jumper. What I've done is just use some cotton and made it into bias binding tape and just whip stitched that around. So I'll do that on the other side because that was one of the thoughts that I had about doing this version of steeking, the non-traditional way where you don't knit the facing, was, is it going to be structurally sound for the next decade of wear? Am I going to end up with, like, you know, a hole on the pickup line where I've attached it? But I think bias binding there is giving it some structure and giving it some strength in that area. Stitches on this side, stitches on this side, so you've got, what am I trying to say? You know what I mean? I have been showing this project in association with the Navy Cal, which is run by the beautiful Sandra of Enzo Knits and Mathilde from Nestled and Knits. And there are at least 2 other people that I've seen that are doing these beautiful Scandi style or traditional Norwegian sweaters, but we are all doing it in different ways. There was one person who did an I-cord and then knit down, so picked up along the I-cord and then knit the color work flat. If you're interested to check out those, highly recommend joining the Navy Cal and seeing, I don't think it's running for very much longer. I have to check that date. But there are so many different ways of doing these jumpers, these sweaters. Sorry, my Australian coming out. There are so many different construction techniques that it's so accessible for a wide variety of skill levels and time constraints. I would say knitting bottom up has been really helpful for me because I was able to take the sections as little pieces. I was able to knit from the bottom, do the ribbing, do the body and stockinette, and then kind of split my focus and knit the color work at home, and then pick up another ball of yarn and the ribbing set of needles, I think that was a 3mm, and take that as my carry along project. So I was able to keep going on this in different ways, either sitting down focused doing the color work or taking it as a travel project in the car or while walking or waiting for school pickup and knitting on that very mindlessly. So I think that is why it took me a lot shorter time than I thought it was going to. I'd allocated myself until April to do this project. So a little bit ahead of schedule. I don't know how I would combat the length issue next time. The only way I can think of doing that is using this as a template, and whatever I'm knitting next, which is going to be my own version of this, but in the inverse colors again and in the Marius pattern, I'm going to use this and my Marius as kind of a grading template. So I'll lay my project down on it and see where the armholes sit. That's when I'll be able to know that I've got enough length. Cardigan doesn't block out a tremendous amount, but it does block out a cuff and a half's length, as I've discovered. So probably that much. So if you are also knitting with Cardigan and you're like, oh, I haven't done this before, how are we going to go with blocking? I would definitely recommend doing a mid-project block. It is very helpful for peace of mind, but it's not like superwash. It's not going to stretch exponentially. However, it does have a little bit of wriggle room. The last finished object I have is the test knit that I couldn't talk about last time because it was a secret test knit until the designer had shared on her platforms. The designer is the beautiful Lurker from Fiber Tales, and she is currently working on the Kvist Shawl, which is Danish for twig. And I will throw in a few lovely shots and bits of footage of her. We have lots of foresty, mossy corners and lots of gum trees and lots of rivers and lakes. So whatever project I have with me, whenever we go somewhere new, I'm like, oh, I need to photograph this. It's just another outlet for my creativity to photograph these beautiful pieces. And I have a very patient family for putting up with me doing so. The construction of this was so pleasurable. You get all of the hard stuff out of the way first. The construction method is very similar to the Skovbund shawl if you've knit that one before. The weight of the yarn is different. My Skovbund is knit in 1 strand of Knitting for Olive merino and 1 strand of their silk mohair held together. This one is well, the other testers were using unspun, but I have not really got any access to unspun here. So I have used a DK weight and a very heavy lace weight, like a Suri alpaca silk. The specific yarns that I've used are Bendigo Woolen Mills Whisper 8-ply in the shade Spruce and Cumulus by Fiber Spates in the color Moss. As you can see, it's got this really lovely snaky cable along the edge here that gives it this lovely little flutter. There we go. And then the star of the show are the twigs. And again, very similar. If you've got the Skovbund shawl, very similar technique to creating them, but a little bit different. Mine is a bit bubbly already because I've been wearing this, and it has actually received quite a lot of wear, not only from myself but from my toddler, because I put it in the pram. And it's really lovely because the triangle part goes near their feet, and then I can sort of tuck them like this. So cute. The weight of this is really, really comfortable. I was slightly worried at the start, not using unspun, that it was going to be heavy, but am I in The Hobbit? Oh my gosh. Look at this. Look at how the light just reflects off of this silk alpaca. Oh my gosh. It's really comfortable, really comforting, so soft. I was trying with my yarn combination to emulate unspun. I just don't have any access to it here. And when I apply for test knits, I generally only do so if I know I've got something in stash, so I can complete things on the timeline that they are requiring. So I knew that I had spruce. I knew that I had a complementary, like, heavy weight lace. If I hadn't hit gauge, I would have made an order from like Maker or Unspun, from Sunspun, Unspun, Sunspun. huh. But very luckily I was on gauge and I'm super happy with the result. Yes please, can I become a hobbit? Wasn't Sam's wife a redhead? Yeah, we could do that. Lurker is working really hard on getting quite a few test knits out at the moment. But I am so happy with this project and I can't wait to be able to share more of it on socials and to get more use out of it in my own wardrobe as well. Alrighty, the whip time. I'm gonna start with a Lyon. I mentioned in my new season plans video that I wanted to cast on a new Lyon. This is my 5th Lyon in different variations. I've done stock standard one, I've done 2 kids ones, I've done like a chunky version as a present. This color is just stunning. This is Double Sunday. No, it's not. This is Sunday held double. I was having this conversation with someone like, what's the difference between Sunday and Double Sunday? And we were looking at the meterages. So it ends up being the same gauge, but it's not going to be the same weight. This is a denser fabric, and so you do get that really comfortable weight from it. This one is quite a lot lighter, and in Petite Knit's pattern for her Lyon sweater, it does actually recommend Sunday held double. And Meta is quite particular with assigning yarns to her projects, isn't she? She always has like a specific recommended yarn to achieve the result that she wants for that particular pattern. And I am going to be very interested to see the difference between my 2 Lyons. My first Lyon I knit in 2 strands of knitting for olive merino, and there is quite a lot of discourse about how these 2 yarns are very similar. I don't think they're that similar. I have feelings about both of them, and I just want to wait until I've done this one to kind of affirm what I'm feeling. But I have different feelings about both of them, and I would use them for completely different things. I'm not sure if you're that way inclined as well. In my new seasons video, I did allude to the fact that there was a reason I needed to knit a new Lyon, and I will show you that reason right now. Here is my beautiful Lyon. I've knit this out of Knitting for Olive merino in cream and navy. I knit this, I finished it in November of last year, but something has happened to it in the washing process. Everything's still intact, nothing's felted, nothing's like super bubbly. Cautionary tale for people drying their knitwear. I'm sure you do this already, but just in case one day you get lazy like I did, dry your knits in a shaded position and make sure you wash out your wool wash, because otherwise your yarn will change color. Yes, my cream is not so cream anymore. It's more of a wheat color. It almost looks like it's burnt, which it most likely is from the sun. I just was living my busy mum life and had this out drying out in the sun, and I left it there for a day, and then in the morning it was quite dewy, so I was like, oh, we'll just leave it out there again. So I left it out there for probably 2 days, and towards the end of the second day I was doing the school run and I went, someone kicked a whole bunch of dust over my knitwear? Like, what's happened? There you can see this cream color here, and then the darker color that the cream has turned. I'm not crying over spilt milk because this jumper is my beach jumper. That's absolutely bonkers to say out loud because I'm a farmer Queensland girl originally, and why would you wear a jumper to the beach is what my brain says. Here in Tasmania we do get windy very often, and it's nice to be able to have a layer to put on, and these kind of sailor stripes have been really lovely to wear at the beach. It's also nice just having a dedicated jumper for the beach because it will inevitably get sandy, it will inevitably get all sorts of stuff on it from whatever shells we're collecting or fish that we're catching, or, you know, So I am very happy to still have this in my wardrobe, and I'm just wearing it as is. Probably next time I wash this, I will try and even out the color a little bit by baking it on the other side. Okay, there's the Lyon out of the road. Ariundle, another learning experience. So last podcast I was talking about I wanted to cast on the Ariundle, and I had the perfect yarn for it that I somehow magically hit gauge for. The Ariundle is a pattern by Rebecca of the Crayer Bayer, and it is the most stunning yoke construction. She is well renowned for her well-fitting garments, particularly when it comes to yokes. She kind of combines German short rows and increases and raglan increases as well to get a really lovely fit without this kind of shelf moment going on. So 3 guesses what happened. Oh my gosh, the color of this. This is white gum wool in a 5-ply or a sport in the silk merino, and it's in the color Flax Lily. I was really happy with this project thought in my brain of this color, this yarn type, and this pattern all amalgamating and combining together to make this lovely moment. But I blocked it, and there's my shoulder. There's my other shoulder. I am in love with this color. I am in love with this yarn. I am in love with how it looks. Not so much the fit. This cannot stay. This will not do. I will be using a different yarn for this Ariundle project to really do it justice. And I am using this yarn in a different project for a test knit for Lerica of Fibre Tales. And it's her Cosmea Caridgan. I saw her tease the Cosmea Caridgan last year in her podcast, but it just spoke to me straight away. It's got these beautiful little flutter sleeves. It has this sweet little tie at the neck as well. So I've started doing the test knit, and I'll put it on. Eh? Look at this color. So beautiful. I've split the sleeves, as you can see. It's got this lovely high neckline. But here was one of my favorite parts about it, was this shoulder construction, like next level in the way that she's used a myriad of different shaping techniques to achieve this raglan moment on the front, a saddle from the side, and then this lovely scooped kind of raglan moment, again repeating on the back. It's also very similar to the Knit's Matcha sweater. So if you're looking for a cardigan version of that, I think this might be up your alley. I'm really liking where the neckline is sitting. One of my jobs this week is to do the double knit necktie. Armholes are sitting really well in a nice flattering spot. It's not too long of a drop. So the yoke's at a very considerate length. This is how I wanted to celebrate this yarn after the bit of bungle with the Ariundle. I just think that's so clever to get things sitting like that. This project has been really great for my knitting and purling practice. Not like no one's practicing their knits and pearls, but when I did my traditional Australian knitting kind of episode here on YouTube, I showcased a few of my grandma's pieces from like back in the 90s. Back in the 90s. I can't stop looking at her stitch definition. Traditionally, a lot of people in Australia knit bottom up in pieces, and that's what her cardigans are. And she has no rowing out. And I have just become hyper aware of my own stitch definition and tension, mostly through, where did she go? Mostly through knitting my Paul cardigan. And I just was, hyper aware of any kind of rowing out that was happening. But I was adamant that I wasn't going to be swapping in and out my needles. I didn't want to have to be doing 3.5 this and 4 on this side. And I didn't want to have to do that. I also don't have an interchangeable set. I much prefer the fixed circulars, and I have like a little binder, like a little A5 binder with plastic pockets inside that I keep all of my needles as I collect them. And so I generally only have the needles that I use regularly in that set. So I have been using these cardigans as kind of like a skill builder and changing the way that I tension my yarn when I'm doing my knit side versus my purl side. So I'm a flicker when I knit, English style, but I flick. I do this. It kind of looks like the lever on a sewing machine. And I'm using like this kind of motion in my left hand when I knit. So when I am on the knit side, I tension my yarn. Oh my God, which yarn in my lap do I choose? Let's use this guy. When I am on the knit side, I will tension my yarn like this, and I get a looser tension. And I will be mindful of keeping things nice and loosey-goosey when I'm flicking. Then when I'm at the purl side, I will wrap it around my pinky and then still flicking like this, but I'm getting more tension and I'm getting a tighter gauge on the purl side. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm finding that it's working. Here we are unblocked, and I think it's a lot less rowy. Life mission, I guess. It's kind of like if you're a strings player, if you play violin or cello or viola, sorry to leave you out. It's like the unattainable, ever trying to achieve smooth bow change when you're going from a down bow to an up bow and you're trying to have an inaudible bow change. It's what I'm going to be striving to do for my entire life, is to try and have complete even row tension from my knit row to my purl row. And I don't know if it was just my nana and grandma were complete guns, but their row tension was stellar. I cannot see a single bit of rowing out. Could also be that they were using straight needles and they didn't have like the weight of the project kind of stretching things out as well, like how we have it on our circulars. It probably does impact it a little bit. There are some pieces of mine that I look back and I go, okay, that's where I was. That's where I was a year ago. That's where I was 2, 3, 4 years ago with my rowing out, I guess. It's just a never-ending, unending quest. That's that one. This is the Cosmea. It's going to have a lovely double knit button band and double knit neckline, and I'm so excited to get wearing this. It's incredibly soft and a perfect autumnal colour. I've got a baby knit to show you now. I'm working up a baby Marius in this glorious yarn by Bendigo Woolen Mills. This is their confetti shade in 8-ply in the rustic tweed line. I love rustic tweed. It is my favourite yarn that they've ever produced. It just has this very velvety kind of feel. It's not slippery, it's not squeaky, it's not rustic, it's just plush and gorgeous. When I first saw the confetti shade on their sample card, it has like this pinky tinge, and I was like, no, that's the pink shade. No, it's the confetti shade. It's got these flecks of red and yellow and green and blue in it, but it also has this kind of pink wash, almost like they've got a watercolor brush and gone through it. There you go. So I'm up to the color work on this Marius, and I'm going to be using a navy color, which I am waiting for an order in the post for. Whoops, again. I placed an order, which I haven't done all year, apart from one skein of sock yarn, which I'll show you in a minute. It's coming into socks. But I placed an order from Ariundle Woolen Mill, which is in northern New South Wales. And I placed an order for their 8-ply feltable yarn in the shade Navy. I really want to try it out and see if it's comparable to Double Sunday. It doesn't say that it's merino, it just says it's a wool mix. So I'm wondering what it is for starters, and I'm wondering if it's going to be similar weight, a similar construction. I quite like how springy and tightly twisted double Sunday is. So I also want to see how it goes with peeling, because I know how this acts and I want to see how that one goes and see if they're going to be a lovely little Australian yarn fusion. I have also placed a Bendigo order for the 10 ply of this so I can have a matching Marius. I'm going to do a Marius in 10 ply confetti and use up those 3 skeins of Atlas, and I really want to see how those 2 yarns interact as well, and I will report back on that. Here's that sock yarn I was talking about. It's got these really lovely color flecks in it. It's like a very cool brown base with some maroons and tans and grays. It's really, really lovely. I am working on a pair of socks for my husband in a 3x1 rib with a 2x2 cuff in the contrast color. It looks super duper long, but it's not long enough. I just tried it on last night. I'm actually tempted to pop this on some try-on tubing and block it and see how much length I still need to knit, because I feel like I've been on this foot for so long. This was a really pivotal shift in the way that I knit socks in terms of fit, and I'm going to be applying some of these techniques to toddler socks that I'm knitting for my baby as well, because I don't know about you, but I have not found a pair of knit socks that actually stay on my baby, and I'm not like backtracking down the road and picking up socks. In my new season plans, I called this my silhouette sock. Don't worry, I'm not releasing a pattern. I just romanticize everything, and I think silhouette sock sounds just dreamy, and who says that you can't name your stuff that you make up yourself? So no, I'll just tell you exactly. I'm not gatekeeping any. It's very straightforward what I've done. So I have done 2 lots of decreases here and here to keep the foot going parallel to the shape of my husband's leg and ankle. And I have done a half handkerchief heel while also rearranging my stitches to an uneven amount on my back and front needles. In previous iterations of socks, I have found when doing the heel flap and gusset that the gusset at the back is miles too wide for my feet, and let alone my husband's feet, which have a narrow heel. I cast on 58 stitches, and then I decreased 2 after I cast on, so I didn't get a really, really, really tight cuff. Then knit 2x2, changed to the main color, did 2 lots of decreases, so 56, 54, 52. And then when I got to here, I rearranged my stitches so I had 28 on the front needle and 24 on the back. So I then knit just normal like slip stitch heel flap, and then I did the half handkerchief heel, which before I started I thought I don't really want to go through the effort of learning a new heel flap method. I just don't have the brain space for that right now. But great news, it is exactly the same as a normal heel flap and gusset. You're just changing where you start your short rows. So with normal heel flap and gusset, you've got like your center back of your heel. With normal heel flap and gusset, you're knitting over the center, doing your slip, slip, knit, knit, turn, and going over like this. So you've got quite a large area. With the half handkerchief, you're actually knitting to right before the center back, slip, slip, knitting across the center and knitting one and then turning. So you've got a much narrower section. So it's very much like a triangle as opposed to a trapezoid. Such a simple change that didn't take any extra brain power, and it does look a little bit funny, particularly when it's not blocked, but it actually fits so much better. And I don't know if that was just because of the half handkerchief or because I have allocated such fewer amount of stitches to the back because of my whole rearranging stitches thing, but it fits really, really snug and I really, really rate it. It looks a bit pointy at the moment. And then you just do your normal pick up along the side, keep knitting in the round. So the only difference in the half handkerchief from the normal like short row heel is where you start the short rows. You just start it on this side as opposed to going across. So it's here as opposed to here. Highly recommend checking it out. I didn't find any YouTube videos on it. I found someone's blog post. I'll see if I can link it down below. Wish me luck with the rest of the foot. I'm gonna be still going on this so long to my lovely view of having a pair of socks per month. We have big feet. I have more important things to be doing. Although at night time, I do go, gee, I wish I had a pair of knitted socks right now. So I think what I'm actually gonna do is finish these, put the fingering weight away for a little while and get some DK socks on my needles because that will be quicker and more gratifying. I do like the idea of wearing some DK socks to bed as well in like a 3x1 rib. Yeah, that's them. And then poor Esther, she is exactly where we left off last time. Still body done, half a sleeve, no neckband, no button band. However, I'm glad about that because I watched lovely Katie's podcast on the weekend and she had finished her Esther jacket and talked about seeing someone who had done a double knit button band, and it just clicked in my brain. I was like, yes, I am motivated to do that. The reason why I'm motivated to do that is because I've run out of mohair and I didn't want to order anymore. One, because on principle, and I didn't want to spend any more money on this project. I'd already gotten the merino on super sale. It was like $7 a ball or something. And I didn't want to have to shell out like $13 a ball for the mohair. I think it's 13, might be 11. So I was contemplating doing the button band with 3 strands of the merino because I have plenty of the merino left in the nut brown shade. And I just didn't want to bite the bullet and buy more mohair. I think a double knit button band with the 3 strands of merino is going to be really, really good. I think that's going to be a winner. I'm basically going to follow my method that I did for the Paul cardigan, where you have the doubled over here and then the button band. So again, I'll show you that one next time, hopefully. That's that. I have a test knit that I've applied for. Currently, I don't know whether I've got that one or not, but I'm very excited for more test knits coming this way. And I'm incredibly pumped to knit with more Australian yarn. Thank you for showing love to my love of Australian yarn, particularly with Ariundle and Bendigo and white gum wool, especially in times like this when we have strife everywhere and everyone's in like a precarious position, either emotionally or financially. I just always think no matter what I'm going through, a farmer is going through it 10 times worse because they've got that weight and then the weight of drought, particularly in Australia, and ongoing drought, decade of drought. And wherever I can support an Aussie farmer, I want to do it and I will do it. If you want to find out more about sheep farming in Australia, not necessarily wool, there is a component of wool to it. If you haven't seen it already, Tara Farms is a great YouTube channel to check out. She talks very realistically and genuinely about sheep farming practices in Victoria and the heartache that goes along with it and just the ups and downs and the real struggles that people go through. If you want to support someone who is Australian and also learn more about sheep farming directly from a farmer, totally recommend her channel. She talks actually a little bit about the mulesing practice and about crutching and docking and half docking and just the logistics that go behind that. And yeah, I would really recommend giving her a look up. So Tara Farms here on YouTube and over on Instagram. I think that is me. I would like to really sincerely thank you for watching my podcast. I actually have filmed this once before, and I got 2 items in, and my dog was going off, and then my baby woke up, and instead of using that footage, I did want to give this one another crack, but it made me want to shout out a few YouTuber knitting mums. It is another mental load to be filming content and editing content, but also keep your whole house running. And there are so many YouTuber mums out there that are doing the hard yards, and I reckon we should all go over to their channels and give them a huge pat on the back and say, well done mama, you're doing amazingly. Some YouTuber mums that I reckon you should have a look at are Katie Parrott from Katie Parrott Makes, who is a fellow Tassie knitter and crafter. She lives down in the south of the island. Not South Island, we're not in New Zealand. Lizzie from Hive Knits. She is just killing it. She is a doctor who has a newborn, who is running test knits and is a knitwear designer as well. And just is like a swan, is doing it so gracefully and beautifully. So definitely give her some love. Alina from Norwegian Knitter is pregnant with her 2nd child and is just overcoming these humongous feats of knitting, all while her husband is away, all while lovingly mothering her son and being a part of her own family and community, and who knows what else. Just effortless is what she looks. And I just have so much commendation for people who are continuing this hand knitting craft into their own little families, and who are making the time and the effort to bless and grace these little people with warm woolly hugs. Please go and show those mums some love and say Katie from the Meandering Knitter thinks that you are top and you are amazing. Next time I will hopefully have some progress on Esther. I'm not forgetting you again, love, it's all good. I will hopefully have my Lyon done, hopefully have my Cosmea Caridgan done, and who knows, maybe that test knit, we'll find out. And some socks. Why do I keep forgetting about socks? I don't want to force myself to knit socks. Thank you so much for tuning into my ramblings about knitting, and I'll see you next time. Bye.